All right, everybody. So, do we got this permaculture thing going on yet? What's going on, everybody? This is Deva with Zone 2, integrating the animals as well as the bees in your food forestry. You've learned all about the layers, and I hope you got super inspired that we can create actual nature that's integrating us into it so we can eat all the fruits of our Garden of Eden. And now we're going to learn about actually putting in more implements into it so that it supports the system and it's integrated with various birds or animals or bees that are helping make it more of an ecosystem, right? So Amazonian tribes, they don't think necessarily that animals are separate from nature, right? Or separate from the forest. They see them as a part of the forest, as an expression of the forest. And you can see that in them in that way as well. And we can design them into our forest in such a way that they're actually benefiting the system, not harming it, and bringing in their nutrients and being a part of the needs, yields in your functional analysis. Let's check it out. We'll show you some really great examples of how that's done.
Yeah, I wish all our trees would put out like star fruit.
Yeah.
It was so funny. This tree hardly produced a star fruit until we planted this tree next to it, because they need male and female flowers, and this was a seedling, and I guess it just didn't have the right balance. And so when this star fruit tree here was just a little tree, all of a sudden this thing started putting out tremendously.
Take a look at this. A beautiful Theobroma, food of the gods. And as you can see, it's producing quite a lot of fruit. And to have this kind of fruit in your backyard that is, high in antioxidants, nutrient rich, is fantastic. But how to get it to produce so much? And there's ways that we can do that with pollinators. And so at the moment, what you're seeing is just a floor of like different weedy grasses. They probably come and weed whack this. And we can actually establish plants to attract ways for pollination of this particular tree. Of course, you'd want to learn how does the specific tree, whether it's cacao or whether it's jackfruit or apples or oranges or pears or lemons, how does it get pollinated and what does it need for better pollination, and what plants could encourage more pollination. So for example, if it's pollinated by bees, you maybe want to find some plants that flower around the same season as the cacao plant, and then plant it amongst the tree within itself. So it could be, depending on whether it needs light or more shade, it could be closer to the tree or further apart. And of course, depending on its root system, will determine the spacing of that plant. And you start developing the relationship that you would normally see in an ecosystem that is appropriate to space, so spatial relationship, and appropriate to benefit in terms of, each one of them benefiting. Maybe one is giving shade, the other one is providing ground cover or providing flowering for the attraction of your pollinating species. Sometimes plants need pollination through wind. Sometimes you need certain species for pollination, like a lot of the anonas may need a kind of a special pollination of either bats or flies of some form. Like the papaya pollinates through wind, water can pollinate, wasps can pollinate, birds can pollinate. Find out the pollinators you have in your area, which ones are appropriate for the particular plants that you want, and then plant a whole bunch of those that do well, that are easy pollinated and that are heavy producers based on the environment that is suitable for the plant. This cacao, definitely suitable for tropical environments, and as you can see, does really well. Herbs such as lemon balm, fennel, and dill are also pollinator attractors. So you can actually plant these plants that you use in the kitchen that is doubling as a pollinator attractor for your plants, as well as a pest repellent for plants as well. So look at the multifunctionality of how you can actually integrate plants that have several functions in design, where they are covering the ground, where they're bringing in nutrients for foods, where they're maybe dynamic accumulating, so they're actually absorbing nutrients from the ground and providing it for your other plants. Think about those various forms as you're learning more and more about plants and how they could be integrated. And consider the animals in the system. So in a food forest, you can have chickens, you can have turkeys, you can have ducks, geese, quail. Those are all here on this property, and they're using them in such a way that they are, of course, growing happy, healthy eggs that they're receiving from them, as well as healthy chickens. And they are giving and providing for fun. Like, I love seeing these chickens actually scratching away and enjoying the space. And also, yes, they'll be able to kind of manage an area, bring nutrient into an area, carry nutrient from one place to another. That means consuming certain bugs and certain foods in one space, and then bringing it into another space while they're scratching and defecating. And so they are interacting within the system that is mature, that can handle these kind of birds. So, animals in your food forestry system. Look at this. We have here a bunch of food scraps and mulch, and they are very happy coming in here and scratching it up and checking out what's in the scene. You can mulch your fruit trees and food scraps next to your fruit trees, and they'll do the same thing. Now you're creating an attractor pattern of bringing them to an actual space that's functioning in your design. And they have turkeys here, and they have some other kinds of pheasants and chickens that are chosen for their heat tolerance. They can actually take more heat here in the tropics, and they can deal with more of the different types of climate that is here. And yeah, they do the job for sure. The benefits of having these lovely animals in your food forest design is that they can tractor, as you see they're scratching up here, for insects and pests. Particularly when fruits are falling, they're going to go ahead and consume those fruits so you don't get infestation of either pests or disease from fallen fruit that's rotting. They can also supply the benefit of weed management, and in return about 80% of their food can be supplied from the forest when designed correctly, for not only the benefit of multifunctional layers within the forest, but that you're actually stacking in particular plants for medicines and for food for the animals that you bring into the system. And what are the yields? There are many. You have feathers, you have eggs, you have meat if it's a meat animal, or dairy if it's an animal for dairy. And you have, turkeys and entertainment for sure. And yields of skins, and yields of course, all kinds of different ways that we can interrelate with the nature of the environment that we're producing. You're producing nature, and you're becoming a part of nature in this way. This space, a design where you have little means of having to have to come in and manage the animals, you want to design it to where they're actually a part of the ecosystem. So needs of water, clean water, how do we bring that in, right? Of shelter, so that they're protected, let's say, from other animals that may consume them. How is it designed to where functionally they can come in on their own and be safe at night, and then come out on their own and come into locations where they can start managing? If you look into your book, you will see that you can actually design systems where just one opening of a door, you can send them into different parts of your food forest or of your open fields that you're growing, excuse me, either gardens that they're turning back into nutrient-rich soil again, or into forested, or into Zone 2 food forestry gardens. What you want to consider when having animals is the food, the shelter, right? What kind of shelter do they need based on how much animals do you need? Spacing, as far as how they roam and how they interact with the landscape. A place for treatment, say for example, if you want to either harvest animals, harvest eggs, and be able to treat them, and also treatment in the sense of dealing with infection or disease. Shade, right? They don't want to be beaten out in the sun if you have a very sunny and hot environment. Give some shade for that animal as well. The water, right? Well, high quality water, high quality. Well, good water, water that's not dirty, right? That's causing more problems.
Chicken tractors, and this is kind of the one that we settled on, in the fact that it's got a nice footprint for access to ground and bugs, gives the chickens a fair amount of space, but yet minimizes the materials up top. So you see the pyramidal structure. We've tried to keep it as light as possible for moving. We had wheels on it. You can see our landscape here isn't as conducive as flat land for just being able to either pull it with an ATV or by hand. So this is kind of a two-person job that we have, but you can pull it with one person. The chicken tractor is really great is that we can localize where we want the manure. We can also use it for grass control. So if you just want to spin to the left, I'll spin to the right. We can just straighten it out. And so, you know, fairly easy to move. And really, again, you know, the benefits of the chicken tractors is localizing manure, localizing grass control, not having to weed whack anywhere near our fruit trees. So we use the chickens exclusively around the fruit trees.
So we have, this is our chicken and duck coop. We have about 500 ducks and chickens in here. We have sort of a integrated system that we've created where we have fruit trees that are being fertilized and composted by the chickens and ducks as they poop, and then we get a yield from the fruit. We also have incorporated a deep litter mulching system. So in the main area, about once a month, we go in and we bring truckloads and truckloads of mulch in, spread it around, and that provides sort of a bedding for the chickens to sort of like hunt for bugs and go foraging in. But also, most importantly, they will actually help us keep the chicken coop clean by throwing the mulch over and their manure, and then that will be broken down with the mulch, and then 3 to 6 months later we can actually scrape away the top layer of mulch, and then we have a very rich, amazing compost that we can use in our fields.
So they have a nice modular poultry run here utilizing this electro netting, which can be easily electrified, and as you can see the stakes pull up fairly easily and you can just put them install with 1 foot. So it's a pretty handy system, easily modified, and pretty nice on the pocketbook too. Yeah, so it's a handy tool for rotational grazing systems where you're wanting to switch the paddock that your animals are running through. So they've got ducks and chickens in here. You could also use it for sheep. Goats probably not so much, but a number of smaller game are able to be kept in. And once they're sort of acclimatized, I mean, as you can see, this one's not electrified, that they keep in pretty well.
Our bees are also located at the top of this hill where they get the first morning sun. So this is where the sun hits in the morning. This whole hillside is faced due south. So we want the bees to be up early so they can get as much food as they want. So that's why we located them up there. And then, of course, we planted a lot of pollinators right in front of their hives so that they don't have to go too far if they don't want to get their pollen and nectar. Another plant that's volunteering here a lot is borage. And that's one that just reseeds and plants, and the bees love it. It's got omega-3 fatty acids in it. It's amazing, the flowers. It's good medicine. So it's not polite to stand in front of a hive.
Oh, okay.
Bees will be very kind, but we kind of block their access. One of my bee teachers pointed out that bees can be dangerous, right? They have stingers, and they know they can have these stingers. And we were doing a tour at a different place with his hives, and there was a whole crowd of people in front of the hives. And he starts explaining that, the bees are actually really very nice creatures. And I was a little worried because I know enough to know that you're not supposed to stand in front of the hives because it blocks their entry. And then he pointed out, we looked behind us, behind the whole crowd, and there was this whole cloud of bees just, poised, waiting for us to move, and then we all moved, and then they all went in the hives. Aww. But he was just pointing out how they're very patient with us and very kind. So the bees we put up at the top of the hill, it's facing south, so that they can get the earliest sun. So when the sun hits this valley, it goes here first, so they can get out and get going early, which is what they like. So these are wonderful bees. We get lots of honey, and then they pollinate everything, and we're very excited. I planted some olives up here too that require very little care and maintenance. So that's up at the top where I don't have to go to take care of them too much. And so the bees, and we also let this windbreak grow up in front of the bees so that they're protected from the wind. Because this is the ocean we're facing south, but the ocean, we're on a peninsula that's facing south. So the prevailing winds will come straight on into here. So we also have a lot of windbreaks that we planted, and multiple windbreaks, so that we can be here. It's probably rip roaring out there right now, and we're pretty mild and clear here. So here's the pond. It's totally full of duckweed, which is a highly nutritious, highly mineralized floating water plant that we can use. We can either rake it out and harvest it and use it for feed it to our chickens. They actually like it when it's dried. They, for some reason, won't eat it wet, but if we harvest it, lay it out on a tarp, dry it, they'll love it. So it's a great chicken food. It's also high minerals for compost. We can also mulch around fruit trees with it. So I have designed duck ponds in the past where you can, it's kind of a big earthworks deal, but if you have the pond at least 2 meters deep around the entrance to their house, and the house is kind of cantilevered out over the water with a ramp that they can get up and down, you could actually design a predator-proof duck house. And we've successfully done that. And then the ducks just have to be smart enough to know to go in there. But that's like their habitat in the marsh. You know, they'll go when they nest right on the edge of the water. So if a land predator tries to get them, they can swim into the water, and that's usually who gets them, are predators from the land.
Yeah, so these are my 11 ducks and 9 chickens right now is the current roster of who's here. They're all 1 or 2 years old. They're almost all egg-laying age, except for our elder duck right here. And we raise them for their eggs. We get about 7 to 10 duck eggs a day right now, and a little bit less on the chicken eggs. And so we're not really doing it for the meat, but we're doing it for the eggs, and we get lots of manure, which is great for the garden and other people's gardens. And they're entertainment for my kids and for other people. And when they do stop laying, we get friends to help with the eating them part. But yeah, so we let them go in a neighbor's yard. I'm going to pull this behind you. Keep coming. I let them go in my yard for about the last half hour to hour of the day, but they're pretty destructive to new seedlings, so they're not always welcome. The winter, they're all right. And I've done this nice permacultural thing of getting to know my neighbors and getting their trust. Oops. And they let me, let's just go to the side a little bit more, because they're gonna, when they don't see us, they'll go. And they pasture here. They run around and get bugs and whatnot that they like to eat. And they poop and they eat plants, and they have a good time over here. And I let them out. Yeah. I let them out almost every day here, and so they get some time. So it's like having a paddock system, or cell grazing, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's like certain areas you want to do, and I got my neighbors into chickens 2 doors down. So so here's a couple of the duck eggs. They're very large and very good, very fatty, very good tasting. So I was trying to say this is kind of their night space, because we have possums and skunks and tons of raccoons. So those kind of creatures, is their job at night to eat them. So we've made this little area for them. We close the door at night, and then they're safe. And then when it's raining, they have a little dry space, and they have food in here, and they lay their eggs in here. So it's the coop. And the ducks come in at night. The ducks lay on the ground at night. So they make their, you can kind of see in here, duck territory. And the chickens are all up on this at night. Off the ground is their survival strategy, and just food is rat proof when we can make it. And there's a few new eggs since this morning when I got them early. So some chicken eggs. So you already saw the duck eggs, but so I get a good supply. So we get our food supply, and I think this is also important. for me about learning about permaculture, that I learned how to do chickens at Linnea Farm, where they had like, I can't remember exactly, but like 35 or 50 chickens at a time. And for an urban person, that seemed like a huge amount because they were pasturing them on large acreage and rotating them around and whatnot. It was really cool to see, and I certainly learned something. But anyway, this is kind of a different scale, and you got to figure out how many birds work for you and your family or your friends or your cooperative, whoever's doing the chickens and ducks. But you know, you do lose some to predation and disease and things like that, so you got to have a little bit extra sometimes. Or they get a stuck crop, or I don't know, all these things happen, right? And anyway, so I think 6 is a good number for a small family, but we're 4 people in my immediate family and a few more around here and extended family, and then we sell some. And so I'm experimenting with that, but right now my feed costs at this scale outweigh what I make selling the eggs. So it's not a full sustainable thing, but I also, as you can see here, sell the compost to my garden clients, the 6 to 12 month aged chicken manure, duck manure, etc. As you can see here, so that's a benefit. We get all